July 11th, 2007, 6:30 a.m. Baghdad, Iraq. The general manager of Heists, Salaam Bank, is arriving for what should be another routine Wednesday morning in one of Iraq's most prestigious financial institutions. He walks through the main lobby, past the marble columns and polished floors that still gleam despite 4 years of war raging outside. Everything appears normal. Same security guards. Same armored glass. Same ... wait. Why are all the vault doors standing wide open? What he discovered next would become the largest bank robbery in Iraqi history, and one of the most shocking inside jobs ever documented. Over the course of one night, thieves had walked out of Salaam Bank with $282 million in cash. No alarms triggered. No security footage captured. No signs of forced entry. It was as if $282 million had simply vanished into thin air. But this wasn't a sophisticated tunnel operation or a high-tech security bypass. This was something far more devastating, a betrayal that came from the very people trusted to protect the money. This is the story of how bank employees, security guards, and possibly government officials conspired to pull off the most audacious inside job in modern history. How they exploited the chaos of war-torn Iraq to steal a fortune, and how their plan unraveled when greed turned allies into enemies. July 2007. Baghdad, Iraq. 4 years into the American occupation, the city was a war zone unlike anywhere else on Earth. Car bombs exploded daily. Sectarian violence claimed hundreds of lives each week. The Iraqi government was barely functional. Police were overwhelmed, understaffed, and often corrupt. Banking regulations were inconsistent at best, non-existent at worst. Into this chaos stepped institutions like Salaam Bank, one of Iraq's few remaining stable financial centers. The bank sat in the heavily fortified Green Zone area, surrounded by checkpoints and military patrols. Inside, it operated more like a fortress than a typical financial institution. Armed guards at every entrance, reinforced vault doors, multiple security systems, video surveillance throughout. 2 outside observers, Salaam, looked impregnable, but all that security was designed to stop external threats. Car bombers, armed robbers, terrorist attacks. No one had seriously considered what would happen if the threat came from inside the bank itself. The mastermind behind what would become the largest bank heist in Iraqi history was a man who understood the bank's vulnerabilities better than anyone else, because he worked there. Ali Hussein al-Shamari was a 34-year-old operations manager who had been with Salaam Bank for 6 years. He knew every security procedure, every vault combination, every weakness in the system that protected hundreds of millions of dollars. Al-Shamari wasn't motivated by ideology or politics. He was motivated by pure, simple greed and the recognition of an unprecedented opportunity. Iraq in 2007 was a country where normal rules didn't apply, where fortunes could be made and lost overnight, where chaos created opportunities for those bold enough to seize them. But al-Shamari knew he couldn't pull off a heist of this magnitude alone. Over several months in early 2007, he carefully recruited a team of conspirators from within the bank itself. His first recruit was Mahmoud al-Rashid, the head of security, the very man responsible for preventing exactly this type of crime. Al-Rashid controlled access to the vault areas, security camera systems, and alarm protocols. The second key recruit was Fadhil al-Mahmoud, the senior vault manager. Al-Mahmoud had access to all vault combinations and the authority to open secure areas during off. Finally, al-Shamari brought in Hassan al-Dilami, a trusted security guard who worked night shifts and had connections to black market money changers who could help launder the stolen cash. The plan they developed was audacious in its simplicity. They would wait for a night when the bank's reserves were unusually high. They would disable security systems and dismiss guards using their legitimate authority. They would open the vaults using their legitimate access codes and keys. They would load the money into vehicles and drive it out as if conducting routine cash transfers. The beauty of an inside job is that it doesn't look like a crime while it is happening. To any observer, it would appear that authorized bank personnel were conducting legitimate banking operations during off, something that happened regularly due to the irregular schedules forced by security concerns. July 10th, 2007, 6 p.m. As the bank closed for the evening, Al-Shamari confirmed what he had been hoping for. The vaults contained an unusually large amount of cash government payroll funds that had been deposited that afternoon, plus reserves from several large international transactions. Conservative estimate: over $300 million in various denominations. Al-Rashid had already arranged for most of the security guards to be dismissed early, citing budget constraints that were common during the chaotic war period. The security camera system had been temporarily disabled for maintenance, a cover story that would explain why there was no video evidence of the night's activities. At 8 p.m., as darkness fell over Baghdad, and the sounds of distant explosions echoed through the city, the largest bank robbery in Iraqi history began. The actual theft was almost anticlimactic in its simplicity. Using their legitimate access codes and keys, the conspirators opened vault after vault, systematically looting the bank's entire cash reserves. They worked with the efficiency of experienced bank employees, because that's exactly what they were. No alarms sounded because the people disabling the alarms were the same people authorized to disable them. They loaded cash into suitcases, duffel bags, and cardboard boxers. They used the bank's own hand trucks and dollies to move the money efficiently. By midnight, they had stolen an estimated $282 million in cash, plus additional millions in Iraqi dinars and other currencies. The total value of the heist was potentially over $300 million, making it one of the largest cash thefts in world history. But removing the money from the bank was only the first part of their challenge. Now they had to make $282 million disappear in a country where large financial transactions were monitored by multiple government agencies and international forces. Al-Dalami's black market connections proved crucial to the next phase. Iraq in 2007 had a thriving underground economy where cash could be exchanged, laundered, and moved across borders with minimal oversight. The conspirators split the stolen money into smaller amounts that could be processed through different channels simultaneously. Some was exchanged for Iraqi dinars. Some was converted to gold and jewelry. Some was moved directly to banks in neighboring countries. Within 2 weeks of the heist, most of the stolen money had been successfully laundered and distributed among the conspirators. Al-Shamari alone is believed to have received over $50 million for organizing the operation. For nearly 2 months, it looked like they had pulled off the perfect inside job. But as every criminal eventually learns, there's no honor among thieves, especially when the stakes are $282 million. The conspiracy began to unravel in September 2007 when Al-Dalami, apparently dissatisfied with his share of the proceeds, attempted to blackmail the other conspirators for additional money. He threatened to reveal details of the operation to authorities unless he received what he considered a fair portion of the total haul. His demands created a crisis within the group. Al-Shamari, Al-Rashid, and Al-Mahmoud met secretly to discuss their options, and they reached a conclusion that would prove to be their undoing. On September 15, 2007, Hassan al-Dalami disappeared. His body was found 3 days later in a canal on the outskirts of Baghdad. Shot multiple times, Iraqi police initially treated it as another victim of the ongoing sectarian violence. But al-Dalami had been smarter than his former associates realized. Before confronting them about his share of the money, he had prepared an insurance policy, a detailed written account of the bank heist, including names, dates, amounts, and methods. He had left this document with a trusted associate, with instructions to deliver it to authorities if anything happened to him. 2 weeks after al-Dalami's murder, Iraqi police received an anonymous package containing his confession and evidence implicating the other conspirators. The evidence was devastating. Bank records showing irregular after-hours access, financial documents proving sudden wealth among the conspirators. Most damaging of all, detailed information about where portions of the stolen money had been hidden or laundered. Al-Shamari was arrested at his home on October 3, 2007, along with over $2 million in cash that he had been too arrogant to move or hide. Old Rashid was captured trying to cross the border into Syria with suitcases full of US currency. Al-Mahmoud had already fled to Jordan, but was arrested there and extradited back to Iraq to face charges. Iraqi authorities, working with international partners, were able to trace and recover approximately $40 million of the stolen money, less than 15% of the total amount taken. The trial began in 2008 and became one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in Post. In Bosnian, ERAC al-Shamari was sentenced to life in prison for organizing the heist and ordering al-Dalami's murder. Al-Rashid received 25 years. Al-Mahmoud got 20 years. But the sentences were largely symbolic. By 2009, all three men had either escaped from Iraqi prisons or been killed by other inmates. None of them served more than 2 years of their sentences, and none of the remaining stolen money was ever recovered. Today, nearly 17 years later, the Dar's Salaam Bank Heist remains the largest bank robbery in Iraqi history and one of the biggest inside jobs ever documented. The bank itself closed permanently in 2008. Unable to recover from the financial and reputational damage, the building that once housed millions of dollars now sits empty. A reminder of how quickly trust can be destroyed and fortunes can disappear. The heist demonstrated the crucial importance of employee loyalty and financial security. All the vault doors, security cameras, and armed guards in the world are useless if the people trusted to operate them decide to become criminals instead of protectors. Somewhere in the world, former bank employees are living comfortable lives funded by their shares of $282 million in stolen cash. They successfully exploited the chaos of war to steal a fortune and disappear before justice could catch up with them. The Dar Salaam Bank Heist stands as a reminder that in times of chaos, ordinary people can be tempted to commit extraordinary crimes, but it also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed among conspirators. The perfect inside job was ultimately undone not by police work or security measures, but by thieves who couldn't trust each other with their stolen fortune. If you found this story as shocking as I did while researching it, make sure you subscribe, because next week I am investigating the Great Train Robbery of 1963. The heist that captured the world's imagination and turned criminals into folk heroes. These stories of inside betrayal and institutional collapse reveal as much about human nature as they do about the crimes themselves. What do you think was the biggest mistake the conspirators made? Let me know in the comments. Your insights help me understand how even the most carefully planned crimes can fall apart.